At Alabama, perfection isn't a goal, it's the expectation. And for a long snapper, every single play matters. Today on Crimson Chronicles, we're joined by former Alabama long snapper Neland Hibbett, player who lived under pressure and upheld the standard. From a family legacy to earning a scholarship to using NIL for something bigger than football, this is a powerful Crimson story.
Well, thank you, Rick. Today we are joined by former 4-year letter winner, long snapper Neland Hibbett, a player who lived under pressure every snap he was on, and he upheld the standard of Alabama football. Neland, it's great to have you today.
Hey, it's great to be with you guys. Thanks for having me.
You are the grandson of one of the iconic wide receivers in mid-1960s Alabama team, Dennis Holman, who caught passes from Steve Sloan in 1965, from Kenny Stabler in 66 and 67, and in 67 was named consensus first team All-American. When did you realize that your granddaddy was a big deal in Alabama football history?
I realized from a pretty young age that, Alabama football had a pretty profound impact on my entire family, not just my grandfather, but my grandmother went there, aunts, uncles, mother. So Alabama was always a big part of our family. So just from the perspective as a school and the team that I root for, like Alabama was just always a big part of my life, and going to the games as a young kid was always my favorite time of the year. So, not just from a football standpoint, but from a really, really young age, I realized Alabama was a big part of our family's life.
Neil, you ever have any funny moments with your grandfather? Maybe people coming up wanting a picture or an autograph or anything like that kind of helped you to see him a little bit differently?
Well, man, there was this one time I remember at family Christmas, and my grandfather and grandmother now reside in Florence, Alabama, and always got to see them growing up. But there was this one woman who just continuously kept coming to the door, nothing to sign, nothing that she wanted. She didn't want a picture. She just wanted to see Dennis. And it was like, and I remember my uncle got up and was like, just I'll tell her to go away. Dennis, go to the back room. Get out of his recliner and go to the back room. We're on family Christmas right now, but nothing too crazy. But I remember that was just kind of strange. But,
That's funny.
He definitely has some funny stories about that.
That's hilarious.
Sounds creepy to me.
Yeah, it really does. Kind of
Yeah,
sounds like
yeah.
you needed protection from, maybe a security guard or something. But, well, man, long snappers don't always get the spotlight. We were actually talking off air before we got started about a mutual friend that's a long snapper, and talking about the community that you guys kind of inhabit there, and how tight knit it is. But when people ask you about playing the position of long snapper, how do you talk to them about the importance of long snapping at Alabama?
Well, the majority of the time, after I tell them I'm a long snapper, it comes with, when the kicker kicks the ball through the yellow post, I'm the one that throws it between my legs. Or when the team kicks it down the field, I'm the one that throws it 15 yards. They're like, oh, so you're not the center? Well, no, not technically. But the important part of my job is to make the punter and kicker look as good as possible. I'm there to basically be their butler and put the ball where it needs to be. So it's important to a sense of making sure that the kicker and punter never have to worry about doing their job with ball placement.
Oh, Neil, I had a question about your high school days. You probably snapped in high school, but you probably played another position as well, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so, but at some point, you went from playing another position in high school to a full-time snapper only when you came to Alabama for the 21 season. Take us back to that point. Did they recruit you? Did they tell us about the walk-on process? What made Alabama feel like the appropriate spot for Neland Hibbett?
Well, I was always a long snapper first in high school. So it was around the time of seventh grade. It was when, everybody, you're not playing Pee Wee anymore. I was running back in Pee Wee, and I was like, I'm going to play running back forever. No, I got to about seventh, eighth grade. and everybody just seemed to be, bigger and stronger and, better at playing running back than I was. So I was just like, I guess I'll just play center. And we line up in a punt formation. The coach was like, okay, you're just going to be the long snapper too. And the more research I did about it, the more I realized like this would definitely be my chance to be able to go to college, to be able to long snap. And I enjoyed doing it. So I, ever since 7th, 8th grade year, I was a long snapper, then something. So freshman year, it was just long snapper, sophomore year, long snapper, D-line, and then up to senior year, long snapper and tight end. So I always had long snapper. It is what I want to be, but I played other positions. But from a recruiting standpoint, I didn't get a lot of noise with long snapping and even kicking and punting when I was in high school. You, a majority of the time, have to go to these camps to get in front of these coaches for specific rankings to be able to be under certain spotlight. College coach calls one of these coaches, "Hey, this is my number one guy in the nation. Just you can take him." A lot of, in my opinion, there were a lot of politics involved, and it just kind of got really difficult to go down that route. So man, I was that kid on Twitter with every special teams GA and special teams coordinator who had their inbox open. "Hello, coach. My name is Neel and Hibbett. I'm a long snapper from Florence High School." And I'd give my little intro and my snapping clips after. And I never really got too much of that, but I mean, I got in contact with schools because of that. But going into my senior year, I had always gone to the Bama specialist camps in the summer. And what I realized is instead of them calling a coach asking about you, you got to go to these camps in college in the summer at these colleges for these coaches to actually see you and recruit you and say, "In-state kid, all right, we'll keep an eye on him." And going into my senior year, Freddie Roach gave me a call and was just like, "Hey man, we got a walk-on spot. I think we're going to bring in 2 walk-on long snappers after our guy leaves and let y'all battle it out for the spot." And I clicked my ticket and said, "All right, let's go." So that was my way into Alabama. But the recruiting process, for a specialist was pretty difficult, but ended right where I wanted it to end.
Yeah, that's incredible. So as you came to Alabama, made the squad, a lot of guys we've talked to talk about having a welcome to Alabama moment. What was your welcome to Alabama moment when you realized that this program is at a really completely different level than a lot of the rest of college football?
And it was kind of like the first day I got there because you'd walk in and, meet all the other freshmen. You have your orientation, go to your dorms, get everything set up. And then you go to the facility for your first workouts, first meetings, and you just see the guys that have been there for 2 to 3 years. See how they prepare, how they work out, how they treat people. I mean, it's something that's a culture shock that hits you pretty quickly, and you realize you have to adapt, embrace the standard, and be a part of it to not only be accepted, but, to be able to be successful in what you're doing there.
All right. Before we continue, we want to recognize one of our official partners, uh, the University of Alabama National Alumni Association. And here's something a lot of people don't know. Did you know that anyone can join the National Alumni Association? You don't have to be a graduate of the University of Alabama. When you become a member, you're supporting scholarships, student programs, alumni chapters across the country, and the traditions that connect generations of Crimson Tide families. Members receive access to exclusive events, special content, travel opportunities, and meaningful ways to stay connected to the university we all love. If Alabama's ever meant something to you, this is a great way to stay involved. Learn more or become a member today at alumni.ua.edu. Tommy?
Neland, as you know, I was honored to write Carson Tinker's book, A Season to Remember, and came out 2014. Carson, obviously, long snapper for 3 years at Alabama, 2010, 11, and 12 seasons. And I know you've met Carson before, but he always talked about the special bond between all the specialists, the long snapper, the holder, the kicker, the punter. How tight is that group, and why does it matter so much in those moments? Tell us about the camaraderie between the specialists, as they're called.
Yeah, you got to have a very tight bond with your guys, and not just with the guys that are on the field, but the whole room. Everybody pushes each other to be better. Everybody wants the best for each other, but it's really important to have that bond because when we're lined up for a kick to go up 2 points with 19 seconds left, my kicker has to have complete certainty, 100% without a doubt that that ball is going to be right where he wants it to be, laces out, because he has to worry about making that kick. And if anything in his mind is worried about, is the ball going to be in the right spot for me to do my job, there's not a lot of trust there. So it goes into the preparation. We spend all practice together, whether that be snapping to each other or even just stretching and talking. Like that bond that we had is just, you have a lot of trust knowing that this guy's going to ride it out and make sure that I do my job at a high level, and that's trust that you need to have out there to perform at a high level.
Neland, I think for a lot of us, we see what you do on the field. We see the relationships among the specialists, and quite honestly, we kind of take it for granted. But the level of communication that has to go on between you and the holder on an extra point or on a field goal. Talk a little bit about what goes into building the chemistry and how much communication actually goes on between the holder and the long snapper on a field goal or an extra point.
Well, I'll answer this question with a story. Iron Bowl 2021. Our holder earlier in the game had missed a snap, and not to shoot anybody down, but it was right in his hands, and he dropped it. We had a missed field goal, and as y'all know, at being Bama fans for a long time, the nightmares of the field goal game at Jordan Hare, even against Alabama. We just in the middle of the game, Saban called for our punter to go in and be the holder. He was back up all year, but regardless of that, me and James have had maybe 1,000 reps at least of just holding, putting the ball down, spinning the laces if they needed to be spun. And right after Ja'Cory Brooks scored that touchdown to make it 9-10, all Alabama's, oh my gosh, we're in the game again. No, we got a tie with a PAT with a holder who's never held in the game before.
Oh my
So
goodness!
we switch it out. And I'll never forget in that Australian accent, he just goes, just nice and easy, right to my hands. And I was like, listen, man, that ball's going to be right where it needs to be because we got trust and we got the reps that we put in, and we knew that this could be something that would happen. So we got in there, perfect snap, perfect hold, perfect kick, and we tied up the game. So just big pivotal moments like that, it's important to have that bond because, you never know when it's going to be the Iron Bowl that you have to tie it up. So having that bond was always really important.
Well, we talk about the pressure, and when everything goes right, nobody notices, right? It's automatic. But when something goes wrong, everybody notices. How do you stay ready and stay sharp mentally under that kind of pressure?
I will say I got lucky with the situation at Alabama with all the doors opening up and being in the right spot at the right time. It was a dream to be at Alabama. So regardless of the situation or the pressure, like I'm right where I want to be. I got that crimson on. I got my number on my helmet, and I'm living my dream. So whenever there would be pressure situations, and I think about it, I just look down at my jersey. I'm like, man, where would you rather be? So and every time you get on the field, like, man, I've snapped countless, countless balls since I was in eighth grade. So it's not really a position; it's a specialty, specialist. That's why they call it that. And it was just something that I was so used to, something that was just a second nature. Whenever I got out there, just another day in the office, just do your job, do it at a high level, and you know how to do it. So whenever the pressure got there, man, I just realized I was living the dream. I'm wearing that crimson. I'm right where I want to be.
Long snapping may be the most precise job on the field. How do you train for consistency? I mean, when you're expected to be perfect every single time, I know in your senior season, you did not miss a snap. I couldn't find the stats on your freshman, sophomore, and junior season, so I apologize. But you were perfect, basically. You perform your job perfectly. How do you train for consistency in that?
It would be like if all of us are on a basketball team and, y'all are running up and down the court, practicing y'all's layups, passes, all that stuff, and then y'all have just one teammate who's over on the side just shooting free throws all practice, just free throw after free throw. That's just all I did. I was focused on throwing a ball between my legs, whether it be 8 yards or 15 yards, the best way that I could. So just repetition after repetition after repetition. And, I love doing it. I enjoyed snapping. It was fun for me to do. But that's really how it got formed, just reps and reps and reps and reps.
What's harder, snapping for a punt or snapping for a field goal?
I would say punt, because on field goal now you have to snap it at a certain speed and velocity where when the holder catches it, the laces will be facing up. But once I really got that down senior year, it wasn't difficult to snap PATs. But punt snaps, I would say, are a little more difficult because you put more speed on it, but also have to get your head and chest up to block somebody if they could be in the left or right A gap. So I'd say punt is a little bit more demanding, but PATs definitely weren't as hard.
Well, you mentioned all the reps you took in practice, but I guess my question is, practice is, you got maybe the kicking coach out there looking at y'all, and then you go into Bryant Denny Stadium and you've got 100,000 people looking at y'all. So how does that differ between practice and a real game? And how many snaps might you make in a routine practice?
Well, to answer your first question, after having fall camp with Coach Saban my freshman year, that first game against Miami and Atlanta was like, thank God he's not 12 feet behind Holder, and I just get to be out here on the field. He's all the way over there on the sideline. I ain't got to worry about him. And I don't know. I mean, he creates a level and environment of pressure at practice. I wouldn't say pressure, but I mean, there's a standard that you have to have at practice, and he expects that. And, that was kind of getting thrown into the fire that freshman year. It was kind of a relief to go to the game. So that was a great way that I was able to prepare for that kind of pressure. But on an average day with how many balls I would snap at practice, I mean, it involves obviously a lot of stretching, a lot of drill work, things that work for me. But I would say probably around, including PAT and punt snaps, 75 to 100 footballs.
Wow. Yeah, this reminds me of a funny Gene Stallings story, which you probably heard. Apparently, there was a kicker that would get a little nervous when Coach Stallings was watching him in practice to kick field goals, and he kept missing, and Stallings gave him a piece of his mind, and the kicker says, well, Coach, I get nervous when you're standing there, and Coach Stallings says, well, son, I'm going to be at every game. So I don't think he won the job.
No, I mean, it's like Coach Saban put pressure at practice, and he was at every game, but it's different when I'm looking between my legs and I see my holder and kicker and just a vast field in the back versus my holder and my kicker. Saban with that straw hat, just standing right between them, just cutting in the middle, just staring. I feel like he's staring at the ball that I'm holding, and that if you can't, snap well in those situations, you aren't going to be able to do it in a game. So I think a lot of Bama coaches knew how to forge a specialist in the heat of the flame.
Yeah, and two, and before you ask the next question,
Yeah,
Rick,
no.
what are the current rules about having a defensive player in front of you? They cannot hit you, right, once you snap the ball. Is that right?
So it's different for PAT and punt. So on punts, the moment that ball releases my hand, whether my head is still between my legs, whether I'm laying on the ground, I'm free game. So
Really?
As soon as I let go of that ball, I get my head up. On PATs and field goals, every snap that I had in college, every single one, the ref walked up to me, made sure everybody was lined up, stay off my snapper. Back. So they're not allowed to line up on me because when I snap that ball and I block, they can't, because I'm in theory I'm a defenseless player.
Sure.
And my head is right on the line of where that ball is going to be going. So there would have been numerous times that rule was allowed that we would have had block kicks. So they have to stay off my head, but my shoulders and next to the guards are free game. But no, it can't be hitting me on field goal.
Wow.
Okay, Rick.
So I was going to ask before I get to the next question. You have a story? Did Coach Saban ever get on you?
Freshman year field goal PATs, fall camp. Yeah, when that pressure, we were snapping. It was the first kind of one that I got, but we were just snapping field goals in fall camp, and it was probably 2 to 3 weeks before the Miami game. I was first team on the snappers, but I mean, still 3 weeks to go. Nothing's going to be solidified, and Holder was catching him right here, and I had a snap a little bit behind him right here. Boy, I heard it. You can imagine the words that were coming out, but it was the first conversation we had. I was a walk on, and when walk-ons get there, you try to cruise under the radar, and that was like our first interaction. And in a weird way, it was kind of cool, but it definitely was the first kind of chewing that I got to put me back in shape and be able to understand it's different around here.
I could see where that could be kind of cool. Like there's a little bit of a badge of honor, right? Like you know.
I mean, yeah, it's kind of. I mean, in a way, you don't want to be prideful about it, but in a way, it's like it would be better for you, Coach. I got you. Like, kind of fires you up.
Okay, so thinking about just the task of long snapping, what's maybe a detail that fans like us would be really shocked to learn matters and is significant in snapping?
80% mental. I mean, you think about it at the end of the day. I mean, I'm throwing a ball between my legs 15 yards or 8 yards. I mean, it's not rocket science, and a majority of people could do it well. But, when you got 5 seconds on the clock to win a game, or you got 10 seconds left and you're up in the game to flip the field on a punt, you got to be steady-minded and be able to do your job at a high level. So 80% of it is just knowing that I have confidence in myself, I can do this, and I'm not worried about the outcome because I put in the preparation. So a lot of the mental game, I don't think people would really expect that.
Well, Neland, you've mentioned this, and I didn't realize this was even possible for a snapper to do this. But I know the holder has to get the laces just right for the kicker. But are you saying that the snapper has to get the laces right for the holder?
So the holder is basically plan B to getting the laces spun, and the snapper is plan A. Snapper has to move that ball at a velocity and speed and accuracy where when that holder catches it, his entire job is just to catch it and put it down on that spot. So before when a holder gets down and catch a ball, he has his 2 fingers down on the ground, and that's the spot that the kicker looks at to know that's where that ball is going to be with laces out, and that's my aiming point. So whenever a kicker comes, that holder catches that ball and puts it down, it needs to be on that spot, and I'd be doing that holder a disservice if he had to worry about spinning those laces because he just needs to catch it and put it on that spot. So there will be a lot of replays that you see in college football, and it's that holder catches the ball, kicker misses it, everybody hates the kicker. Well, that holder had the laces matching, but he was 2 inches off that spot of the aiming point for the kicker. So, there's a lot of – it's like chemistry with a catcher. That pitcher wants to have that curveball right on the outside corner. Catcher's going to have to frame it. But, I mean, on TV, you just see, ball, he walked him. That catcher's got to frame it on the outside corner, So with specialists and holders and snappers, there's a lot of small details like that have to be matched to make that point.
Rick, there's your answer to the detail question.
No doubt. Like that is, I mean, how in the world would anybody know that hadn't been a part of this? This is fascinating, man. This is incredible.
Yeah. Well, just want to let y'all know this episode is brought to you by Tidal Towel, the officially licensed Alabama game day towel seen all across Bryant-Denny Stadium. Whether you're in the stadium, tailgating with friends, or watching from home, the Tidal Towel is a must-have for game day. And right now, our listeners can get a special discount. Use the promo code TWO. That's TWO at checkout. It's more than a towel. It's a tradition. Thanks again to Tidal Towel and Roll Tide. All right, Neland, question for you. Alabama is known for being the standard. How does that show up for specialists behind the scenes?
Well, simply, it's just, in my eyes, it was not being a specialist, but doing everything I could to be a football player as well.
Mhm.
Kickers, punters, snappers, we all worked out with the team, ran with the team, meetings with the team, recovered with the team. Like, it was everything that, we did that brought us together as a team and as a group. It doesn't matter what position you play or what depth you are on the chart. You have to buy into the standard and being part of that. Because if you're not, guys in your group are going to recognize that and whip you in shape about it.
Did Coach Saban have any idiosyncrasies or stuff that he expected from you guys as specialists that might, that might be interesting for folks to hear?
Nothing that he expected out of us other than to just do our job. And as a specialist at Alabama, what I realized really quickly is I did not want to have too much of a practice relationship with Saban. When I was on the field practicing, when I was in the game warming up, in my mind, if I do my job perfectly, he doesn't look at me for a second and blink an eye. So basically, my goal, my job was to fly under his radar so much that he doesn't even realize that I'm there. And that was the main point of just being able to say, like, I'm doing my job well. If nobody noticed me, but if head man don't notice me, that I'm doing my job well and at a high level. Because obviously when Will was there, Will did a great job, but if Will wasn't able to do his job because of that freshman snapper, boy, I didn't want my name called out. I didn't want him to know anything about me during practice. Just that guy that put the ball where it needed to be. So that was definitely something that I think he expected out of us. Fly under the radar, do your job at a high level, and I'll make sure that you get taken care of.
So it would be safe to say that Coach Saban was more vocal when something went wrong than when something went right, correct?
I'll just say this: I never got a pat on the back after a good snap during the game, which I did not need one. I did not need one. Not saying I wanted one, but there were no good job ribbons. Good job for doing your job. Like, you do your job. There you go. That's it.
What about your position coach though? Like, was different type of relationship?
Oh yeah, it was a different type of relationship because I loved all my position coaches, but it was a funnel effect because they understood that, listen, you're doing your job, you want to do it at a high level, I want to coach at a high level, but we both bonded over the fact of we don't want to get chewed out by headman, and it's a funnel effect. So if I do something in practice, and let's say, for example, I had a bad snap, my specialist coach, it would be expected for him to come over and rip me a new one. Just this, that, like, and that's expected. And then after Saban would walk away, it'd be like, "You're good. I can do that." And then because they didn't do that, when we're watching film, Saban sees one of these players not doing well. He's not coming after the player. He's looking at that position coach like, "What's wrong with your group? What
Right.
you can't obtain a standard? You can't do like." So it was a funnel effect of, listen, I'm gonna have to get on you and I'm gonna have to be tough on you, but it's just because headman, headman. So they kept the standard high, but it was more of a personal relationship with all the position coaches, but they all kept the standard high and they knew what was expected.
Well, let's talk about those expectations, not just about you as a player, but you as a man. What did the expectations that were placed on you at Alabama, how did they help you develop just as a person?
I mean, everything you do in your life, you realize that you want to do it at a high level if you got a passion for it. And when I went to Alabama, loved long snapping. It was what I feel like I was born to do. It's what I lived, eat, sleep, and breathe. And I wanted to do it at a high level. And once you get into that and you start understanding the standard and the system that's in place. What does it take to do that at a high level? Being on time, being in meetings on time, not only being on time, but being in meetings and understanding and focusing at a high level. All the small details that you realize all of it really matters, and it's important to do all of this at a high level. You learn that very quickly.
So to be able to do this at a high level, I would imagine consistency has to be a big part of your life and your practice routine and your game day routine. Kind of starting with your time at the stadium, warm ups, that sort of thing. Take us through everything that happens, or not in great detail, but just everything in your routine up to the point that you snap the ball for the first time in a live game. Like, what does your day
I
look
will
like?
say, I will say this. One thing that I love the most about being in that program was understanding the importance of routine. And I was never like, my has to go on this way or my shoes have to tie it like this. But it was always like, this is what I do before a game, and this is, my routine. And the moment I got off the bus, you stand up, walk champions, and as soon as I'd be walking down the aisle, Sweet Home Alabama. Put that in my pocket, and every single walk of champions, dude, that was full blast in my headphones. And uh, that was one thing I always made sure to do on game day, even when I was a freshman, because I knew it wouldn't last forever. Just smell the roses and enjoy that song that I grew up on. Look at the stadium. That was always something that I made sure to do. Had Alabama, Sweet Home Alabama downloaded because you can't get Wi-Fi, so I had it on instant. But yeah, man, walk into the locker room, take my suit off. I like to have everything organized in my locker. Have my shoes, my socks, post game sweats. Have my Bible, deodorant. Get all my suit loaded on up because I'd have my bag ready for after the game. The moment I came back to my locker, all I had to do was take my shoulder pads off, shower, and then put everything on. So I didn't have to worry about a suit or nothing. So I like to be organized on game day. But sit in my locker, get my pregame prayer, go out on the field, and I always like to get on the 50, lunge stretch, left, right, stop for lunge stretch, left, right, and then whatever the punter and kicker needs, whether that be they want to get some holds or they want me to get them some snaps so they can warm up. I was basically out there to do my job, like I said, be their butler, whatever they need, be able to get them what they need to warm up. But the routine before game day was always precise. I knew what I wanted to do because it was the routine that worked, and it really helped to understand the importance of routine to stay organized, but also do things at a high level.
Neland, was there a particular snap or a game from your career at Alabama that still stands out, that's especially meaningful, memorable for you?
Yes, I remember there was the Iron Bowl to tie it up, and James just nice and easy right in my hands. That was very special. But I remember there we played Texas my sophomore year, and I think it was the second or third game of the year. And we went to Texas to play them. And man, I have never felt turf that hot before in my life. And they had our family section up in the very top. It's about 95 degrees, sun on them till about the third quarter. And man, it felt like the glue at the bottom of my cleats was melting off. But Bryce had an amazing drive about 50 yards downfield. And there was like 19 seconds left on the clock, I believe. And it was a just 26-yard field goal, but man, that was a different environment to be around. Just that kind of heat, those kind of fans, in that close of a game, and Will the Thrill, baby, coming out
Yeah.
right in
Oh,
the middle. And they
yeah.
iced us this time. Sark called a timeout, and we got two field goals in, and both of them were right down the middle. And that one was just really special because I learned probably the most from Will Reichard when I was at Alabama. Not just how to be a leader, but how to be a leader in the specialist room and conduct yourself. And just seeing everything that he did in the summer and camp and practices following up to that. I mean, everybody on the team expected nothing less because he's prepared for those moments. So that was really special to see, that kind of preparation and fruition for all of us to come out in the game like that. So that was really special to see.
Yeah,
So
and I
let's
know
take it.
Will gets the credit for those kicks, and his name's in the NCAA record book. But that snapper and that holder had a lot to do with that. And
I'll tell you something, man. I had so much confidence going out there with him because I knew even if every ball that I snapped, genuinely, I think if I rolled it back there and the laces were back and probably 2 inches off the spot, he'd figure out a way to put it in. So, I
yeah,
mean, just I had so much confidence, not only in my holder, but will to make the point. So, if the ball goes in, fans are happy. I mean, fans are happy if the ball goes in. And I just had so much confidence in him being able to do that 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 took a lot of stress off of me when I was in the game. But will the thrill, baby?
yeah.
All right, Neelan, let's go back to that moment for just a minute. You're, fourth quarter, pressure packed situation on the road. Crowd is crazy. It's hot. Like there's a ton of distractions. What's going through your mind right before that kick?
Living the dream, baby. Looking down at that white crimson, man, it really does all just come back to that. In every situation we'd be in, regardless of the game, man, I had that crimson jersey on, and I was living my dream. And it never let me get too high, never let me get too low, but I was right where I wanted to be. So before that kick, had all the confidence in the world and will, but like I said, man, I'm right where I want to be.
Well, sort of in that same vein, in that Texas game, I was there in that upper deck as well, and it was probably my top 5 hottest games I've ever sat through. But as a specialist, do you feel the crowd, like in Austin, Texas, they're rooting against you? If you're at Bryant Denny Stadium, it's pretty quiet. So how do you block out, in Texas's case, 90-some thousand fans rooting against you? How do you block that out?
It's hard to explain, but on the sideline, it's really hard to block that out. Once you run onto the field and you just I'm looking between my legs in a spot that I've been in 1,000 times, like I could sit in a snapping position for an hour, man. I'm comfortable in that spot, and right when I put my head between my legs, you know, it's kind of a feeling of you don't hear anything, like you don't hear the fans, you don't hear the guys on the other side, like you're just kind of in this moment and bubble, and it's just like I got to do my job at a high level, and it's something that I've done 1,000 times. And when you're just locked into that mode, there's nothing that could really interfere with your focus or timing at that point. So I think that's what really differentiates a lot of specialists to a certain point, just being able to get from the sideline onto the field and lock into that mode of there's nothing else around me right now other than doing my job at a high level. And as a specialist, just doing it for so long, you just pick up on that mode. So that was definitely something that helped me stay really clear minded and not be affected by outside noise.
Are there things about the practice routine and what you have to go through day in and day out in practice that um, fans would never see, but are really key to your preparation to be all that you need to be as a long snapper?
Yeah, I mean, it probably would just be exactly what they think it would be. Bunch of snaps, bunch of stretching, bunch of drill work, but also in practice, we simulate our snaps like in game scenarios. So
Okay.
we'd go out to practice and we would do the stretches. And then after we had 24 periods in practice. First stretching would take up the first 2 to 3, and then we would go stretch, warm up, dynamic bands, dynamic warm ups till about period 8. And then we would go out, warm up for our period, which was at period 14. And then we would go out, snap, get everything together. And as soon as period 14 hits, all these linebackers, wide receivers, DBs that have done their own thing, special teams, punt. We get up in the middle, and that is our time for all these guys who've been doing their practice for us to be involved with them in our drill. And for us, it was always really important to understand this is the 2 periods in practice that we get today to work on our punt. And we've got to execute this at a high level so these guys can understand what we're going to be doing on game day. because special teams is important, but I mean, to a lot of people, they've got another position. Nobody comes to Alabama to be a left gunner, you know. So when they get in here, we've got to make sure to be able. I got to snap the ball to James well. We got to protect right, but also for that gunner who gets maybe 8 reps of practice of this, we got to put that ball where it needs to be for him to get the right reps. So I would just say probably a thing that people wouldn't expect is during practice, we're really big perfectionists, being able to make sure that other teammates are getting the look. So it's just as important as a game day for us, for our guys to get the right looks on special teams, whether that be punt, block, field goal, punt, all these periods that we have, we get our own little time. So that little time, we got to make sure that we do it at a high level.
Well, Neeland, at some point during practice, you had to earn the starting snapper position. So internally, what do coaches look for when deciding on who the best and most efficient snapper is? Is it the seconds that it takes the snap to get from you to the punter, or is it the accuracy of the snap to the holder for field goals and PATs, or how does the coach decide when there's not a lot of things to compare? I mean, it's just there may be 4 or 5 of you going for one position. How do you win that job?
Funny story with that, man. I almost didn't. We came in the summer of my freshman year, and it was me, another freshman, and a guy who had been there for 3 years. And the plan with the coaching staff of bringing in 2 walk-on long snappers was, we got 2 in-state kids. We're both good snappers. We'll let them battle it out for the spot. And man, I don't know what happened, but I just did not have that good of a summer. I was kind of off the targets, kind of putting them in the wrong spots. And before we went to fall camp, Coach Saban and our coordinator at the time, this is what our special teams analyst told me. He was in the staff meeting and they were deciding on who to take to fall camp. And Coach Saban and the special teams coordinator had apparently decided on the third year guy and the other freshman who was in, and say, let's let them battle for the spot and see what happens. And before any decisions were made, the special teams analyst, Jonathan Galante, who's now the special teams coordinator at Florida, was like, hey, we got 2 freshmen and we got a guy who we've seen for 3 years. If we bring in 2 freshmen, let's just see what they both can do. And one of them poops the bed, then we got a guy who's been here for 3 years that we can call him bring in. And I got called to fall camp, and I don't know if it was just the confidence that he had that pushed me in there, or just finally feeling like I was made to be looked at and had an opportunity. But a switch flipped and didn't miss a ball all fall camp. And I think a lot of times it's just coaches having instincts to know, I know what this kid is capable of, and I got the confidence in him. And I think if we put a little bit of confidence behind him, he could do it at a high level. So I wish that I could tell you that there was a perfect form and formulation for picking the right snapper. And there are definitely things that you see, whether it be athletic wise or, height, size, that say, he's not a contender. But to the small details like that, I think it just means you got to have a good coach to know what to look for and have the instinct to be able to say, like, I think this kid, we should give him a shot. So he's special teams coordinator at Florida now. So I think that he's got some good instincts, but man, he gave me a lot of confidence that I needed to win that spot. So that's what I would say probably is the most important for coaches finding a player is, the coach have that instinct to be able to understand guys that, need a shot, but also the confidence behind them.
Do you remember the moment when you knew that you'd earned the coach's trust?
Dude, I was in the cafeteria and I had heard that, they might be bringing 3 snappers. They might just be bringing 2 snappers. And you didn't know which snappers it was. And the other freshman long snapper, who I'm still in contact with, great guy. He's been a 3-year starter at Ole Miss. He called me and we called ourselves Shake and Bake, baby. It was and with long snappers, and there was a professional respect there. Like, hey man, I want this job, you want this job, but we both want the best for each other. Like we're out there to compete, and there's no bad blood with it. So we called ourselves Shake and Bake. We were Shake and Bake, and he called me, and I was in the cafeteria, and I answered the phone. He just goes, Shake and Bake, baby. No way. No, are you kidding me? Seriously? Like we didn't care about who was going to start at that point. We were just like, dude, we're going to fall camp. And as two freshman walk-ons, we both grew up Bama fans. It was a dream come true for both of us. So that was definitely the moment that I realized like we got a real opportunity to probably win this job.
Well, Neland, at one point during your senior season, you received the moment that every walk-on dreams of, and that's being placed on scholarship. Take us inside that moment for you.
Man, it meant a lot. So the first 3 years I was there, I had my meeting with Saban after my freshman year, and it was exit meetings that he has with all starters. And I was just like, listen, this has been a dream come true for me. And I'll be honest with you, I think we both know I'm not going anywhere, but it'd mean a lot to me and my family if I was able to have a scholarship. And he goes, we got 85 people on this roster, and he was straightforward about it. He was just like, this is a situation. We got 85 people on this roster. We got 85 scholarships on this roster. Every single one of them's filled up. And back then, you didn't have 40 guys after a season jumping into the portal. You maybe had 4 or 5. And with how we talked about it, he wanted to reload from the portal, which is what I completely understood. If you want to go get Tyler Steens and Jamison Williams and Jahmyr Gibbs and all these different guys out of the portal to help us out, I understand that, to give them a scholarship. But he said, we're going to give you NIL money. So they would give me monthly checks, and that would be used to go put towards my school. I could have spent it however I wanted, but it was for books and tuition and housing. So after my first season, they took good care of me. So I don't want people to hate on Saban, not put me on scholarship, but he definitely took care of me. And going into my senior year, when he retired, we just had a wave go to the portal. So I met with Coach DeBoer, and the first thing I asked him was, listen, been here for 4 years. All I asked this year is to have a shot at the NFL. Could we have a scheme that requires me to block in either the left A or right A gap? I didn't say nothing about a scholarship. I was just like, man, I want to be able to put something on film to show teams that I can block in a scheme. But he got in contact with the director of player personnel, Bob Welton, and we had a scholarship open, gave it to me. And when we had our senior tide talks, which is where he gets all the seniors leaving in fall camp to kind of give speeches to the team, answer a couple questions, and be able to just say what they wanted to. And got to let the team know that I was put on scholarship. And, that meant a lot to them too, because, every walk-on that would come ever since I was a sophomore, I would just kind of introduce myself like, hey, I'm Neland. I'm a walk-on too. I know it can kind of be like thrown into the fire pretty quickly when you get here. So if you ever need anything, just let me know. So, I love my walk-on, so that meant a lot to be able to let them know that I got that. So it was definitely a big privilege to be able to say that I'd earned that.
Well, Neland, before I love your granddaddy Dennis, and your mama has been a dear friend for a long time, Missy. But you had to have made that call to them, and I cannot imagine the pride that they had for you, especially with Dennis having played here some 60 years ago and having been an All-American, and there's his grandson earning a scholarship.
I mean, I had the most blessed and amazing experience ever at Alabama, and there's nothing that I would change. And I'm not sour about this because I'm happy it happened. But man, after I got called up to that office to sign my scholarship paper, I called my mom. Somebody else from the department had already called her to say, "Hey, we're putting Neland on scholarship." So when I called her, she already had tears in her eyes, and we got to share that moment. But I mean, like, I never got to call her and say, "Hey, I just got put on scholarship," which I'm not sour about, but that would have been a special memory. But it meant a lot to be able to call her, and she was still emotional, with tears in her eyes, and I got to let her know, like, here's the paper, just signed it, and it's official. So I don't know if she was crying, she was happy, or happy because she didn't have to take out any more loans for me. But either way, she was very, very happy. Very happy.
That's great.
I got that.
Well, you mentioned about NIL money and that opportunity, but one of the things that's true of you as well is that you took a portion of your NIL money and donated to the Concussion Legacy Foundation. Why was that important to you?
Because you see college football players, and we love to always see like the big hits and the big moments and all this stuff. And I love my grandfather and love spending time with him, but it's kind of sad sometimes when you'll be sitting hanging out with him and you're like, well, where were you again? What are we doing? Or what are we about to go do? And it's kind of the same conversation every couple of minutes, but he knows who all of us are. Man, I'll throw on the 1967 Alabama versus Tennessee. Man, man, there, I know that. Yeah, look at him go. There he goes. He remembers all that to a T. But nowadays, just when you get to the later stages of somebody's life, you kind of start to recognize kind of the trauma that a lot of these players endure, not only on game days but just on a day-to-day basis at practice, and which is why I was lucky I never had many big hits at Alabama and didn't come back. But it's important for people to understand what's going on and to be just very cautious about it.
When you look back on your career at Alabama, what's the thing maybe beyond stats and wins and all that you're most proud of?
Man, it sounds simple, but honestly, just being able to say that I was able to wear the jersey, I was able to play for the team, regardless of anything that happened on the field, off the field. Man, I worked really hard for a long time of just, even in high school, all my friends knew, like from a young age, like I was just the long snapper. Like I was just posting long snapping videos on my Instagram story and just, it was just my thing. And there was, I wouldn't say ridicule, but I mean, nobody was obsessed with long snapping. I mean, it was kind of like a strange niche to just be like obsessed with, but I'm proud of the way that I was able to just find a passion and work really hard at it to achieve it at my dream school. And that was something that, I'm not like prideful about, but I'm proud of myself that I was able to do that. And it meant a lot to me to be able to say that I did that.
Neland, what lessons from being a long snapper at Alabama or even from Coach Saban will stay with you long after football?
Finding a passion and having just an obsession to be perfect at it, and whether that be long snapping, football, whether it be being a father or a husband, or up here in Nashville playing some music. I mean, it's whatever I'm passionate about. I want to do it at a high level because I'm very passionate about it and enjoy it. And it's not really worth doing something if you don't have a certain standard about it. If you don't have a process, a routine, a way that you go about it seriously. In my opinion, I don't think that a lot of passions will work out. And he taught me how to be able to stay on a path and be able to, work hard for passions, but also do it at a high level and not be, focused on the outcome, but what's it going to take to get the outcome? What are you going to have to do daily to be able to do it at a high level? And just being focused on not where I want to be in 10 years, 5 years. I'm hoping for that day, but what can I do right now to be ready for that moment? So he instilled a lot of those good lessons, not only in me, but anybody that came across from him. He was a living example of that.
How do you want your teammates to remember you?
Locker room guy. I want them to remember me as somebody that they could talk to, just have a conversation with. You want to go hit the cold plunge, talk about practice. You want to go hang out outside, play a game of poker. Like I want to be the guy that's remembered as, you come to Neland to be the locker room guy and talk to you because I'm gonna be here for you. And we're teammates and we're brothers.
Neland, if a young long snapper is listening right now with dreams of playing at Alabama, what advice would you give them?
You gotta have a compulsive obsession with long snapping. You have to eat, live, sleep, and breathe it. And a lot of times I've realized snappers will be in high school and they'll go to these camps. They like long snapping. They like seeing the stars next to their name, but they're not obsessed with being absolutely perfect. Like just the best you can be and living and breathing for long snapping. And to do it at a high level, do it for a long time, you have to be obsessed with it. Um, and that was just something that I realized from a lot of other guys too, not just long snappers, or not just people who want to play at Alabama, but playing in college and doing a specific position. To be able to make it through all that, you have to be obsessed with it. And that was something that I was. And as weird as it is, I was obsessed with long snapping and I was obsessed with Alabama. And that's what made the time easier, but it made it something that, you know, when it was hard, I enjoyed it. So just being obsessed with it, that's the number one thing that I would say.
So you say you're obsessed with Alabama. When you hear the words Alabama football tradition, what does that mean to you personally?
I mean, in a weird way, dude, it means everything. I mean, love Alabama football, and even from this season, being able to step back and watch it from the screen, just being able to watch it again, man, it was something that I really enjoyed being able to see the Alabama tradition, see the Crimson Tide play on TV again, and see how guys develop, and just something about that, man. It means the world to me, and it's a really, 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 really big part of my life.
Well, Neelan, I believe you've already answered the question that I'm about to ask. What will it always mean to you to say, I wore the crimson and white?
I'll say this: when I was in high school and I first started long snapping, I I'm a religious man. I'd be praying about it, and I would just say, Lord, just put me in the right direction where you need me to be going. But in the back of my mind, I was like, Lord, if you let me start Alabama long snap for 4 years, I ain't gonna never ask you for nothing. You just have to use. Let me grant these things. I was so fascinated with Alabama when I was a young kid, and with long snapping, and even just seeing the career that my grandfather had. That was just something that I wanted so bad, more than anything in this world. And I did. It wasn't like I made a deal with God, but I was just like, Jesus, just put me in the right doors if you want me there. If you want me there, Lord, let me be there. And that was the greatest answered prayer that I'd ever had. And it was something that I just, man, there was nothing that I honestly could imagine wanting more in my life than being a long snapper at Alabama. Is weird and as niche as that may seem, that was my dream ever since I was a kid. And being able to accomplish that, that's really all I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Before we close, Rick, I've got one more question.
Yeah.
Neelan, you mentioned uh, being in Nashville in the music business. I know you played the guitar and played regularly around Tuscaloosa, but tell us about your budding music career.
Yeah, so while I was in college and snapping as well, my freshman year roommate, Jonathan Bennett, was a drummer. He was a running back from Oak Mountain. And, we got together after my sophomore year. And I was just like, yeah, we always talked about, like, yeah, man, we'll get a little band together. But I was at Moe's Barbecue one night and I saw some guy playing in a band. His name was Matt McCracken. And I was like, that's kind of sound and guitar that I'd like in the band. And we got a little group chat together. And my fiance, her big in her sorority, now Kai had a garage on Elmwood Drive, so we'd get together on Elmwood Drive and practice. Elmwood M was born, and from sophomore year to senior year, we'd play shows around Tuscaloosa and just jam together. And I found a big passion for music there, and I'd played smaller gigs when I was in high school for a little extra money at restaurants and hotels, but um, finally after graduating and realizing that I have an opportunity to pursue that and chase that, I moved to Nashville and been writing and playing, gonna put out some music in the near future, and it's just been a passion that I've enjoyed. But still at the same time, like what we talked about before, lessons from Saban and everything that I want to do at a high standard. you know at I want to be a great guitar player. So that if that takes me practicing scales 5 hours a day and then still training, if I get an NFL call, working out the same day at the gym that I'm at, got to do things at a high level. But I'm passionate about them and it's fun to do them at a high level. And having fun in the process of doing those things is definitely a big lesson that I'm taking with me. But doing things at a high level, anywhere when you're passionate about it is fun. So I appreciate Coach Saban for all those lessons.
Sure. Rick?
Neil, thank you for representing this program the right way.
Yeah. Neland, you'll always be a part of the Crimson Tide family. Little did Dennis Homan know some 60 years ago when he was playing that his grandson would be a 4-year letter winner at Alabama. And I know Dennis and Charlotte are proud of you as well as Missy. But, man, thank you for being on.
Man, thank you guys for having me on. It's been a blast.
Yeah, man, thank you so much. And thanks for all of you for joining us for this episode. Be sure to like, subscribe, share the Crimson Chronicles podcast, and let's keep the traditions of Alabama athletics alive.
Yeah, and thank you especially to our partners, the University of Alabama National Alumni Association and Title Towel.
And until the next time, Neeland, we end every episode the same way with a big roll tide.
Roll Tide.
There you go. Thank you.
Love, baby. Y'all have a good one.